Today's show, Mick Walker and I, Spencer Holbrook, going to break down everything we learned from Ohio State versus Grambling. It's the Monday after Ohio State 70, Grambling 0. But first, football fans, huddle up. Tailgate season is here, and nobody gets you ready for game day like Academy Sports and Outdoors. Swing by your local Academy store or shop online at academy.com to find grills, canopies, jerseys, and more. Be a watch party legend with gear from top brands like Nike, Adidas, and Under Armour at undefeatable prices every day. Shop Academy at locations throughout Ohio, including Zanesville, Springfield, and Boardman. Fun can't lose, and neither can you with tailgate gear from Academy. Go to academy.com today. Academy Sports and Outdoors. Thanks to them for being a sponsor of the show. We're proud to have Academy on board for the season. That, again, is Mick Walker on the other side of your screen. I am just Spencer Holbrook. We are going to talk Ohio State 70, Grambling 0, then look ahead a little bit to Ohio. Mick, first of all, did you have a good rest of your weekend? And second of all, thanks for joining me on the program.
I had a great rest of my weekend. Got to spend some time with my wife on Sunday, but we also, as is the case every Sunday throughout the season, we got some work done. We had to make sure the people at Lettermen Row were taken care of with plenty of content. So we're happy with that. Happy to spend some time with the family, and now we're just happy to be talking with Spencer again for another Monday.
Yeah, happy that Ohio State Grambling is over, if we're all being honest with ourselves. We knew how that game was going to go. Everyone knew it. Mickey Joseph said it in the pregame press conference on Tuesday. Everyone knew how that game was going to go. That's exactly how it went. Everything we say moving forward on this show is couched with the fact that it was Grambling, okay? We're not going to, because I listened back to our show. It's called a self-scout, Mick, which, by the way, I'm sorry that the show on Saturday, folks, I'm sorry that the postgame show on Saturday was blurry. The lighting in the horseshoe was changing at breakneck pace because of the sun going down and different lights being on and getting shut off. And our camera just couldn't adjust to it, I guess. And so if you watch the show, thank you so much. We hope that you are gracious enough to allow this apology to sink in, because that is not the standard that we hold. We wanted to get the post-game show out anyway. So I'm sorry that it was blurry.
We vow for better this Saturday, folks. We will give you better this Saturday after Ohio versus Ohio State.
Hey, it's my alma mater. We have to be better. We have to be better. And we will be better.
We'll be better.
The standard is the standard, Mick. Anyway.
Correct.
We talked too much during that show. Well, obviously, it's the caveat of being Grambling. So I'm just going to open this thing up with this. There is a Grambling caveat in all of this. It's called the GC, the Grambling caveat. It goes into everything we say on this show. Okay? Deal? Deal. All right. What do we think of the offense on the rewatch, Mick? I thought it was spectacular.
I did as well. Obviously, like you said, Grambling caveat. There was a lot of, but still, you have to like the Will Kazmarek throw from Julian Sain. You have to like. I didn't get to see the Jeremiah Smith touchdown kind of in like I believe I was in the photo bunker when it happened. So to watch that in person, it was another impressive throw, because I think there was a DB in range that thought he could make a play on the ball, and it kind of just sniped right over his hand. The Carnell Tate touchdown was even, but it might have been as good, if not better, than the Will. That was just the timing. Obviously, you wanted to. It feels like it's part of the reason why Ryan Day said, "Hey, Julian Sain's going to be our starter," as early as he did, even though he didn't really have to, is so you can work on some of these one-on-one reps. So, I mean, I imagine Carnell and Julian worked on it in the summer, but they still got some of those reps in the last couple of weeks of August, and that's why you get a nice back shoulder type of ball like that in the end zone, end up in a touchdown. And even I wanted to watch the interception back a couple times, just because in the stadium I thought, okay, Brian Hartline and Ryan Day were trying to force a little bit too much to Carnell Tate, because there was earlier in that drive Carnell Tate had a great little swing pass out there. If he would have been able to break a tackle, he would have had a walk-in touchdown. I don't know if they're trying to force feed him a touchdown again, but looking back on, I think it's a similar thing to the Max Clare, Jeremiah Smith fourth down against Texas, where Julian Sain was pretty clear, there's a safety coming over the top. That's what he saw. And I think if you watch the interception, you can see that linebacker kind of start leaking out into that window of the slant. And I think Julian Sain has the arm talent to make the throw, same way they did it against Texas. It's just he hasn't seen that often. He doesn't know the speed of college. He hasn't fully adjusted to the speed of college football yet, so he doesn't know when to rip it. I think Will Howard probably throws touchdowns on both those plays, but that's, a guy that started, 2 games now, so he's still got to learn and get those reps under his belt.
I was supremely impressed with Julian. I like that Ohio State put some no huddle on his plate and made him play with tempo to see how he would not react, but just how he would carry himself in a tempo setting. I think that's important. I like what the Buckeyes did, seeing some vertical stuff while also seeing some horizontal stuff from him, mixing in the different route concepts, getting him in, they could have ran that. They could have ran that play to Jeremiah, the 87-yard touchdown, probably on the first play of the game and scored a touchdown. And instead, they ran a curl to Brandon Ennis. They did a couple run plays. They got Julian into a rhythm, and then they let him uncork that 1-inch throw down the seam to Will Kazmarek. Well, then he's already in a rhythm, so then on the first play of the second drive, then you can go to the Jeremiah touchdown, the long bomb where he's wide open, 87 yards down the field. So you could tell that there was a reason behind why they were doing that, which is not only a feather in Julian Sain's cap for handling the tempo and the different the rhythmic and timing throws that he made. That's a feather in his cap. But I also think it was a really good step forward for Brian Hartline to show like, hey, we're going to get our young quarterback into a rhythm, even against this terrible team relative to what we are. We're going to get him into a rhythm, and then we're going to attack. And I think that is the perfect way to go about this thing. And I think they're going to do the same thing against Ohio. I wouldn't be surprised if there's some rhythm stuff going on, some get your young quarterback a few completions, and then you can attack. And I really like that. I know the competition could not be any more different, but the difference between the rhythm and the timing and the comfort that Ohio State and Brian Hartline got Julian Sayin into, and then you contrast that with what we saw on Saturday night, where Bryce Underwood's a young quarterback on the road for the first time, and there's not even it didn't even seem like there was an attempt to get him a comfortable rhythm to start the game. It's like that's good play calling from Brian Hartline. And so, again, there's that Grambling caveat, the GC, if you will. But at the same time, that's the kind of rhythm that you can get Julian Sayin established in no matter who you're playing. And I think it's even more impressive that Ohio State doesn't script plays, especially against a team like Grambling. So I was just impressed with Brian Hartline on Saturday and the way that he handled things, the way he attacked things, the way he chose to progress into the game and allow Julian Sayin to get comfortable before he really uncorked him. And then when he did, you saw that he can go on a run of 16 straight completions and 18 for 19 and make these long touchdown throws on a rope and things like that. And to be honest, my favorite Julian throw of the day has changed since we talked on Saturday, Mick. My favorite Julian throw of the day is now they fake an end around, they fake the run, they fake an end around, and then Julian kind of hides the ball and then goes deep to Carnell Tate in the middle of the field. And that ball was, I don't have my notebook with me. I think it was 42 yards in the air, and it was on just an absolute rope to Carnell Tate down the field. The 87-yard touchdown pass to Jeremiah Smith was only 40 yards in the air. So it was an even better throw, I think, than the wide open one to Jeremiah. So I could not be more impressed with what this offense did on Saturday.
Yeah, and I applause credit to Ryan Day as well. Like you mentioned, Brian Hartline, I think he did a good job of putting things on other people's plates against Grambling and see how they handle it. Make sure Brian Hartline has to call every sequence of all the plays and make sure he gets to kind of have free reins of the offense. We talked about it on the field after. Make sure he's in Julian Sain's ears before the plays or before the drive, just giving him little tips to see how he handles the different things. I believe Ryan Day talked about after the game, they added more RPOs, more actual decisions on a Julian Sain's play just to see how he handled it. And obviously he handled it with flying colors. And there was even I watched the playback a couple of times just to see what happened there. And I do think it was on C.J. Donaldson, the fumble down there before the Carnell State touchdown on the pitch. You see it. I think Julian Sain has a good toss. He gets in the moment. I think he's a little frustrated just in the situation itself. I don't know if he's frustrated at C.J. Donaldson. He takes a second to compose himself, and then he turns around, sees C.J. coming back to the huddle, and just claps at him come on, we need you here. Let's lock in. Let's get a touchdown on the board. And that's what they do the next play. The leadership stuff, handling everything, you constantly see him giving the thumbs up to the sideline. I got the play. I don't think he's in the huddle Chris Simmons in the play, with the John Gruden clip where he's just fumbling through the play call. I think he seems to be in full command of the huddle from a schematic standpoint and a leadership standpoint, which is obviously it's something we can't fully quantify or see right now because we're not in there. But it's just something it was harder to see in the fall or in training camp, and it seems like he has it now.
Yeah. Like I said, supremely impressed. So,
Can I give you a minute to talk about the backup offensive line, or did you have another offensive lane that you wanted to take us down?
That's fine. The backup offensive line you want to hear about?
Because I think beyond Julian Sain's starting performance, I expected all the starting offensive linemen to play well. They did.
Look, man.
Most running backs to play well. They did.
Look, if they wanted to run for 300 yards instead of throwing for 300 yards, they could have. Yeah. If you're concerned about the run game, stop. Get some help.
Why don't you
But
come to Lettermen Row and talk to us about it? We can talk you through it. We can try
yeah, I
and
mean,
give you
I'll be.
rationale.
Hey, I'll sit you on the couch and talk ball. That's fine. I can be the football therapist here. But like, if you're concerned about the running game, don't be, because if they wanted to, they would have ran for 300 yards. Bo Jackson ran for 100 yards. C.J. Donaldson, if he was in there at that time, would have probably ran for 100 yards. James Peoples would have run for 100 yards in that scenario. I'm not taking anything away from Bo Jackson at all. I thought he was really impressive on Saturday with the Grambling caveat, the GC, if you will. And I thought Isaiah West ran well. Sam Dixon, he's taking the Williams out of his name. Everybody ran well. That's fine. But if you're concerned about James Peoples still or C.J. Donaldson, like I understand your concern based on the Texas game, but the Grambling game's not the time, Chief. So we're gonna move on from the run game. The starting offensive line was great. They didn't give up any pressure. I think Grambling on PFF was credited with a sack, but it was on a scramble by saying he went out of bounds a half a yard before the line of scrimmage. Probably a teachable moment there. Throw it away, then you don't lose a half yard. But that's not really a sack. So they still haven't given up a sack. I think they've only given up a couple of pressures, even against Texas, and now here against Grambling. Like the starting offensive line's been awesome. The backup offensive line was super intriguing to me. You had Justin Terry playing right tackle. You had Ethan Onyanwa playing right guard. You had Josh Padilla at center. Your left guard was Gabe Van Sickle, and your left tackle was Ian Moore. Interesting, because I've seen Ian Moore take a lot of reps at right tackle throughout his freshman year, never left tackle, but he was at left tackle in this game as the backup. Interesting, because I haven't heard Justin Terry's name since the day that he committed out of the transfer portal, and all of a sudden he's on the field as the second string right tackle. So they obviously like what he's done in a short amount of time being on campus to prove that he belongs in the second team, because that spot could go to Ethan Onyanwa at tackle, who was a tackle for years at Rice and was slated to be the starting left tackle at Ohio State until this training camp. I'm just supremely impressed.
Carter Lowe, Deontay, like guys that were more highly ranked, sought after, came in before him. But like you said, Justin Terry still gets the reps at right tackle, which was something you and I talked about post game.
Yeah, and then Carter Lowe is the third string left tackle, which honestly is exactly where I expected him to be right now. He's a true freshman, 4-star guy, really highly rated. Ohio State absolutely loves him, but he needs time to develop. And then Deontay Armstrong was the starting the third string right tackle. The other note that I will make is Isaiah Kima played center for the third team. Very intriguing prospect, class of 2023, 3-star prospect, borderline 4-star guy who signed with Oklahoma State out of high school under offensive line coach Charlie Dickey. Dickey is now an assistant for Tyler Bowen. So after Isaiah Kima's 2-year Mormon mission, he enters the transfer portal and picks Ohio State. He's on scholarship, guys. So he's a guy to keep in the back of your mind as well on this offensive line. All of this is to say, we didn't even see a Devontae Armstrong. We didn't see much from Javon McFadden. We didn't see a lot from Jake Cook, even though maybe we could have. He was running some second team throughout training camp. He was a third team guard on Saturday. All of this is to say, this is the deepest offensive line Ohio State has had under Ryan Day, and I would even consider the argument that it's the deepest offensive line at Ohio State since before Urban Meyer took over. It is ultra deep. Ohio State feels great about the present of the offensive line and the future of the offensive line. Now, we say depth because as of right now, Ian Moore is a good backup left tackle. If he had to start at left tackle right now, I don't know how great Ohio State would feel about that, but it also knows that he has time to develop as long as everybody stays healthy. So, there's those obvious caveats that go along with the Grambling caveat, the GC, if you will, that we can kind of couch all of this with. But as of right now, Ohio State feels great about its offensive line. And hey, you saw why. There have been times, Mick, where in the past, you send the backup offensive line out there, and even against the worst teams on the schedule, they can't do anything. No, Lincoln Keenholz and Tavian St. Clair had all day to throw. And there were running lanes that were huge for this offensive line. I think the cleanest, I was texting one of the fellow beat writers. I was texting a friend of the show, Bill Landis, yesterday about one of the reps for the backup offensive line. And we agreed it was the cleanest counter rep they've taken this year. Why? Because the backup offensive line is good. They're just good players, man. And A lot of programs are looking for their 6th offensive lineman right now in case of emergency. And Ohio State's kind of working under the assumption that it has 7, 8 guys, and they're just looking for who's going to be 9 and 10 that really take a step forward. So couldn't be happier with where this offensive line is right now.
Yeah, I think in the past couple of seasons with the lack of offensive line depth and even talent at the time, like you're looking at probably a 50-point game instead of a 70 because you're not getting a couple of those touchdowns, and you're looking at a couple more punts just because you're not able to generate drives. But Ian Moore, Gabe Van Sickle, and like Josh Padilla, those are the 3. Like we look at PFF every Sunday. There's a story up on Lettermen Row. Like those are the 3 like backups that graded out really well for their positions. That's backup left tackle, left guard, and like center. And it's just interesting too because like Ohio State's going to need a center next year. I see like Carson Hinsman's going to be gone from this program, and I think it feels like we've heard plenty of times that there's trust in Josh Padilla to handle that whenever the time comes. He showed it on Saturday when he got in the game. Like he's handling business against guys that Grambling threw out there. Obviously, again, throw the GC on it, but still he handled business. Gabe Van Sickle could fight for a starting guard spot next year if like Luke Montgomery or Taylor Shabola leaves early or heads out to the NFL. Like I think they feel comfortable with him. And then again, if you need another tackle for some reason, if Austin Sareveld, like I don't think they would sit on their hands and say we're not going to add anybody, but I think they would go, we can let Ian Moore battle for this spot and feel comfortable if he wins it. Like you can't learn that all from Grambling, but it reaffirms what we've heard from practices when against honestly better competition, but you still get to see it on film now.
All right, let's go to defense. It's time to talk about the defense. You're not allowed to take Riley Pettijohn. We've already talked about him a lot. He had a forced fumble on a tackle where he filled the hole really nicely. He had a fumble return for a touchdown. He had a couple other tackles. He was everywhere on this defense. He's the 4th linebacker for the Buckeyes right now, behind only Peyton Pierce, Sonny Styles, and Arvell Reese. So we don't really have much else to say about him. Other than Riley Pettijohn, who stood out to you on the rewatch from the 2nd or 3rd crop of defenders?
You had a thread on this, I think, on the Lettermen Lounge on Sunday. So we talked about this a little bit already, but I'll go with the freshman linebacker that stood out to me, and that's TJ Alford, leaving you another guy that I think you're pretty excited to talk about here in a minute. But TJ Alford kind of played a little bit of the role that they put Arvell Reese in, where they put some of that 5-man front up and the linebackers on the backside of it all. And he had a nice, really impressive kind of backside tackle where he came through, got a TFL. He looked good. I'm interested to see more when they get reps if he can drop in coverage or like play like some of that role. But when he's up at the line of scrimmage, he can just play downhill, go get running backs and quarterbacks. Like, seems like there's no real question about it. At least there wasn't against Grambling. I'm excited to see maybe if we can get him, like if they can get him reps against a UCLA, who's probably at this point a light competition to what Ohio is going to put on the field like this coming weekend, because the Bruins are just god awful through 2 games so far. But like I was impressed by TJ Alford. Eli Lee played well in the little bit of snaps they got. So those other 2 freshman linebackers stood out to me.
Okay. All right. Those are good picks. I want to see more of 15, man.
Not Jelani Thurman. We talked about offense already. Jelani Thurman looked great, but we're talking about the defense 15.
All the tight ends looked great. I guess we just completely forgot about them. Keenan, I'm so sorry.
If you're watching this, Keenan Bailey, you've done a great job with the tight end room. They all played great. It's hard to talk about 5 tight ends, 6 tight ends, so we just got to do speed past that position because we couldn't talk about them all.
Also, if you're watching this, Keenan, get back to film study, man.
It's hilarious to watch him on the sideline pace up and down the field between drives. Him and Brian Hartline and Billy Fessel, like they just have to be on the headsets just going crazy whenever there's a line, like a break or a defensive drive, just trying to format the next drive, which is cool to see from some first-time play callers.
Yeah, I want to know their step counter. Anyway, defense. I want to see more from 15. Okay, he's on the field, he makes a sack. He's on the field, he makes a stop in the run game. He, Stonewall's the guy who's blocking him. It's not that the competition was any good, but if you're on the field and you're making plays in practice, and then you get on the field with the second-team defense and you're making plays in a game, why can't you continue to make plays when you're on the field? Because when I've seen him on the field, he makes plays. And I don't know if he needs to take time away from Kenyatta Jackson and Caden Curry. Actually, no, I know that he shouldn't take time away from those 2. They're good players. I don't think he should take time away from CJ Hicks as a rush edge. I think CJ's done pretty well. And by the way, number 11 was in on a couple run stops that, if I'm being honest, I didn't really know if he had it in him. And he was in on a couple good run stops from a defensive end position where he gets off a block and makes a tackle in the run game. And I'm like, there it is. Like, it's starting to click really well for CJ off the edge. I don't think he should take time away from 11. And I think there have been times through 2 games where Bo Atkinson has been pretty good. But if 15's on the field and he's making plays, I want to at least see more from him. So if he can be part of that second team defense, if Ohio State's lucky enough to be up by enough on Saturday, get the second team out there, I want to see more of 15. I just want to see more of Zion Grady. If you don't know who 15 is, we're talking about Zion Grady. I guess I forgot that I didn't mention his name, but he just looks the part, man. He looks like a top 150 player from the state of Alabama who played spring football for 4 years of high school ball, who developed, who went and camped and did well at camps, and now is at Ohio State. It's a pretty cut and dry formula here. He looks the part. He plays the part. He should play more.
Yeah, Spencer just don't want to mention his name because, like, if you say it too many times, he could just pop up and sack you. Like, that's just kind of the player.
It's like Beetlejuice, yeah.
Yeah, but it's similar. Like we talked about a post game. Aaron Scott's near interception. Like I think he wants that play back to like completely secure to get the pick. But like Zion Grady was in a similar spot. He had a quarterback running away, fleeing within arm's reach. He got him, and there's situations where I think C.J. Hicks probably thinks he's going to get to clean him up and actually get the sack. But no, Zion Grady throws him down and actually completes it. Like for a freshman to like from start to finish win the rep, get the sack, it's actually pretty notable because there's a lot of times where I imagine you up in the press box in the past couple of years or just down on the field where it's like, oh, freshman almost made a really cool play, but he's still a freshman and he couldn't like see it all the way through. And he did that. Like Fahim Delane did that too on a couple like run stops. It's funny. I think Matt Patricia or Matt Guerrero or some of these guys don't think that people see that they're trying to mold Fahim Delane into like the next Caleb Downs, which is interesting because he was pretty much playing nickel throughout most of the thing and doing everything that Caleb Downs did. But it's like a hush thing. It's like, oh no, he's a safety, but it's like, no, you guys just want him to be the next Caleb Downs. So that was cool to see as well. It was another kind of defender that impressed me.
Yeah, I like a lot of these guys on defense. We could go for a while. I thought Aaron Scott was great. Drove on the ball, didn't come up with that interception. He was obviously upset about it. Like I mentioned on the postgame show on Saturday, I saw him on the field, and he was after the game, and he was already being pretty hard on himself for dropping a very clear interception that he could have had. So, that was your chance, man. I remember Jermaine Matthews' freshman year. He has a pick six against Western Kentucky, I think it was. Yeah, late in the game. It's like, hey, you get one of those late in the game chances. They're throwing the ball when normally they're just running out the clock. Like you better get it, and didn't work in Aaron's way. But I was impressed with him anyway. Anyone else that you think is worth mentioning on the defensive side of the ball that you liked?
We've talked about him through our camp. Jarquez Carter and Eric Mensa, like backup defensive linemen, and they at least look like if Cade McDonald, if you lose Cade McDonald or Edric Houston to the draft, like you have some depth bodies there. Obviously, I think you want to keep those guys around for another season, like the rest of the season and hopefully the next. But Edric has to be around for the next unless you're losing in other ways. But I don't think Ohio State's going to let that happen. But it seems like they have good depth building there. Jarquez Carter is obviously. I don't know how he doesn't have his black stripe off, but he's been a guy that they feel like they've used and cited about being more than a depth piece for a while. Obviously, he was one of the three that played against Texas, but I was impressed by the backup defensive tackles as well.
Yeah, I like you're hitting the nail on the head there. I like what you're saying there. I just there's a lot to like from this Ohio State defense, but at the same time, again, like it's just a huge caveat because like the Grambling starters were what they were, and then they put in the backups, and then. But Ohio State was playing all of its linebackers, including Joey Velasquez got in on the game. That was awesome to see. Good for Joey. He's a guy who works really hard, does everything the right way. Everybody seems to like him a lot in the Ohio State community, and that can't be said for his past stops. So good for Joey for getting on. And I'm not kidding either. Like good for Joey for getting on the field. He's a hardworking special teams guy, and I like when they get them on the field. And then, like you said at the end, it was fantastic to see the all special teams kickoff unit in the last 30 seconds, or the all walk-on kickoff unit on special teams on the last 30 seconds. Like that was just a cool moment for Ohio State that they can kind of keep the, they preach the brotherhood, and that doesn't just mean Jeremiah Smith and Caleb Downs. So, I think that was really cool. All right.
Well, Spencer, 25 minutes in, give us your evaluation of Jackson Corvell and all his PATs. Do we have any evaluation of the backup kicker here?
He made them. They were good.
And that's more than can be said about some of these people that played on Sunday as well. Obviously, Jackson Corvell comes in, knocks in all his extra points, and that's probably a good way to stop. No more extra points to be made on the show, but probably more to be made in the show on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, Ohio State was clean on special teams, 10 for 10 on extra points, a 45-yard punt from Nick McClarty. It was good to see him actually get in some game action and for his first punt at Ohio State. But now let's move on, Mick. The Grambling game is in the rear view. Everybody is excited that it's over, including Ohio State. Like they knew exactly what it was going to be. And now the Buckeyes get to move on to Ohio. The Ohio Bobcats.
That fearsome son of a gun, Rufus. Him and Brutus are going to renew their rivalry on Saturday.
So if you read lettermenrow.com, I wrote, Mick, for the Setting the Table column, my weekly Monday column. I encourage you all to go take a look at it. I work very hard on it. I give 2 questions for the Ohio State offense for the week ahead, 2 questions for the Ohio State defense, something I like, something I dislike, and then an early week prediction for what's going to happen either in the horseshoe or around the country on Saturday. It's my way of just kind of setting the table for my coverage for the week ahead, Lettermen Row's coverage for the week ahead, but also just kind of give some people – sometimes I like to have a little bit of fun, in it. I want you to know, Mick, that my one early week prediction for this week is that Rufus and Brutus will actually make a little bit of a production of their reunion. They haven't been on the field together since September 10th, 2010, when Rufus viciously attacked Brutus on the field at the Horseshoe. Everyone knows that. A lot of my Ohio friends, I'm an Ohio alum. I'm looking right now at my bachelor's degree from the Ohio University. It's hanging on the wall in my office. I'm a proud Ohio alum. It won't cloud my coverage this week, I pinky promise. But a lot of my friends have the Rufus punching Brutus as the lock screen on their phone. Like it's a big, seminal moment in the history of Ohio athletics. I think Rufus and Brutus are going to make a production out of shaking hands and being cordial and being nice to each other on Saturday. And
Brutus is just going to turn heel and really get his get back, right?
No, he's not. They're going to make amends, Mick. Well, they're going to let bygones be bygones. This was a decade and a half ago. It's 15 years since this happened. And I think they're going to be nice and friendly with each other on Saturday. And then the ball will kick off, and Ohio State will face an Ohio team that, A, won the MAC last year, B, promoted its offensive coordinator to head coach when the head coach who won the MAC went to Charlotte, C, has a returning quarterback who's probably the best quarterback in the MAC with a bullet, D, has a good defense that returns a lot of production, but also lost some of its key members. And E, I guess we're going all the way to E, almost beat Rutgers in week 1 at Rutgers. And this is a Greg Schiano Rutgers team. This isn't your older brother's Rutgers that just completely sucks. And then F just beat West Virginia this past week in a Rich Rod team who added 70 new players and isn't very good. But still, they're a team with a Power 4 win and a 3-point Power 4 loss in a game that they probably should have won. So this isn't a game that Ohio State is going to take lightly or just sleepwalk through completely. This isn't the 48, 49, 50-point spreads that you see from Ohio State, Kent State, or Ohio State, Akron, or even Ohio State, Bowling Green sometimes. Ohio's going to come in with a lot of confidence. And Ohio State is is well aware that Ohio is not just the complete slouch MAC team that Ohio State's used to seeing. And so I'm kind of intrigued, not just because it's the team I cover against the team my first college football team I ever covered was Ohio. But I'm just intrigued at this matchup just because I think we are going to learn a little bit about Ohio State this week.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of respect between the staffs as well. We go to these camps in the summer and we get to see all these coaches, obviously the Ohio State coaches out there, but some of the MAC coaches come down and there's probably no staff that pops up at more of these camps than the Ohio staff. You get Brian Smith there, the head coach, and a handful of assistants, whether that's the quarterback's coach and Scotty or Izzy, or I'm not going to mess up his name because I respect him too much, or you have other assistants out there like tight ends coach Kyle Obley. Obviously, Will has Merrick played at Ohio and knows a handful of these guys as well. There's a lot of respect there. I think probably more respect than Ryan Day has for many coaches that he'll face this season, just because that's how highly he thinks of these guys. So it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out on Saturday. I'm
excited. I think it's going to be a good challenge.
Night game in the shoe. Let's see some of these cool things they brought in for the Tennessee games. And I don't think they're going to do all the same things because it's not a college football playoff game, but still make it a cool atmosphere for the fans that do show up and attend.
I think it's going to be a really cool atmosphere. I think they're going to I think this is going to be a test run basically for the new nighttime atmosphere that Ohio State can have at its games. So I think if you're an Ohio State fan, you should want to be at this game. And I know a lot of Ohio Bobcats people who are also going to make the trip for this game, whether that's up from Athens or around the country. I have friends who are flying in because they want to see their alma mater play against Ohio State. I think it's going to be a really fun day. The other thing that I like about this, Mick, is I think it's really good for the state football ecosystem. Ohio State's going to fund Ohio's athletic department for the next year with this check that they're giving them to play this game. Also, Parker Navarro is a good quarterback. Ohio State saw Arch Manning already. He didn't really scramble that much because Ohio State had him in a blender. And then the Grambling was so overmatched that it didn't really matter at all. But the game after this, Ohio State's going to play on the road at Washington against Damon Williams, who's the most mobile quarterback in the Big Ten. Parker Navarro is the perfect
tune-up
matchup for the Ohio State defense to face Damon Williams. And then you've got Nico Iamaleava later in the season, who's a mobile guy. You've got Bryce Underwood, who I think they're going to use his legs in the biggest games at Michigan. So I think this is the perfect matchup for the Ohio State defense to see from a mobile quarterback, just to see what it's going to be like to play a guy who can escape the pocket, who's got some ability to Houdini himself out of tackles behind the line of scrimmage and make chicken salad out of the things. I think it's a guy who can make some throws against the secondary. So I think the Ohio State defense will be able to learn a little bit about itself from this game. And the Ohio State offense might have its way with the Ohio defense. I mean, Rutgers put up 34 points on these guys. West Virginia is completely inept offensively. I've got a friend who's a West Virginia fan who was just absolutely disgusted with what he saw on Saturday. But the Ohio defense has been good one week and horrendous another week. So we'll see what happens. But I do think that this is, unlike Grambling, this is a game where we can actually take a little bit of what we learned from this game and apply it moving forward against the bottom of the Big Ten when you see some of these Big Ten teams upcoming on the schedule. So I think it's going to be a fun, exciting day in the Horseshoe, and I'm looking forward to it.
It's going to be a decent recruiting day as well. At least going into it, we're expecting to be obviously a 7:00 game. You get plenty of time for guys to get on campus. You also kind of get the guys that want to stay, because at that point you're having to stay through the night to come back on Sunday. So there'll be some guys that show genuine interest in Ohio State that'll be there this weekend. And again, as we have the rest these 2 previous games, as we will the rest of the season, we got you all covered at Lettermen Row. $1 for your first 7 days. You get to read that Setting the Table story that Spencer wrote. You'll get to have Berm's thoughts from the field on Saturday. You'll get to see whatever Austin writes about, which I know will be good. You'll have another A-Deck next Monday. You can come back and read the A-Deck that Alex Feynman put out today. And I imagine I'll get to work at some point doing something. And I hope that's as good as the rest of the guys.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be a good week over at LettermenRow.com. I think I need a Brutus bobblehead to go with my Rufus bobblehead, and maybe just have them perpetually fighting each other in my office. Because just having Rufus here, isn't good enough, I don't think. So, it should be a good week, Mick. And I'm really excited for Ohio State and Ohio in the Horseshoe on Saturday night, 7 p.m. on Peacock. If you don't have Peacock, go get Peacock, because you're going to have it if you want to watch the Ohio State game on Saturday night. We'll all be there. Mick Walker will be there. Jeremy Birmingham will be there. Austin will be there. Myself, I will be there. Alex Gladman's going to stay in the bunker, hold it down, and help out with the recruiting coverage from home. But we'll have you covered over at LettermenRow.com in the Horseshoe on Saturday night. Ohio State versus Ohio. The Buckeyes haven't lost an in-state game since 1894. Don't plan on doing it in 2025. We'll be there to cover it all, no matter what happens. That's Mick Walker. I'm just Spencer Holbrook. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Head on over to LettermenRow.com, get full coverage, and you don't even have to listen to us yap. You can just read about what we say. For Mick, I'm Spencer. Thanks for being here. We'll see you guys next time.